Hello, friends. Welcome back to Sorry What. Jason here to bring you today's story. Alright, we have something different today. Our billionaire hero is not married, but his best friend, unfortunately, is married to a cheating skunk. What will our hero do? Well, help a brother out, that's what. Now go grab that drink and let us begin today's story. I guess everyone dreams of coming home in a private jet to be met by the town as a conquering hero. I am living that dream. I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. A little over 3 years ago I moved to Danville, California to seek my fortune developing my concept for AI. I made it work, sold it for $2 billion, retained the manufacturing rights, and was in the process of starting a company in my hometown. My best friend, Will Weed, is sitting across from me. I flew him out to California to help me start planning the new operation. Will and his wife Bobby still live in Wichita. We have known one another for 26 years, basically our whole lives. Bobby and Will married right out of high school, both work, she is a hairdresser, and he is an electrician. For the past 2 years Will has been burning the candle at both ends, working a full-time job as an electrician and opening his own company. When I hit it big, I thought of Will immediately. He knows the town, has incredible drive, and has been my friend since we were in grade school. He was at first reluctant, but when I told him I'd pay $250,000 annually, plus bonuses, he was on the next flight. There are 4 of us on the flight. Rocky Doyle and Stu Johnson, handyman bodyguards, Will, and me, Dave Thomas. I had it on good authority that as a billionaire I was a target of kidnapping, extortion, and who knew what, and that these two were good at many things, principally protection. So, they were on the payroll. I'm still a single man, though I will say when you have a big bulge in your pants, created by a money roll, companionship is a relatively easy matter. I don't want to malign the women with whom I spend my time. They are not trying to latch onto my money, they are not gold diggers, they are mostly like me, unattached, looking for some fun for a very limited period, and anxious to get back to whatever it is they go back to. When we landed we were greeted by about 100 people, more or less. They included Bobby, her parents, Will's parents, my parents, the mayor, the city council, some reporters or bloggers, and many others. Bobby was all over Will, I mean all over him. Though it had been but 2 weeks, it was like she'd not seen him in a year, and he'd been in combat. The mayor was warm, friendly, and totally disingenuous. A typical politician. I told him we would initially be hiring about 300 people, most of them local. We would grow to about 1,000 over a period of a year to 18 months. Will, my operations chief, would be in charge. Who wants to live like this? It was a madhouse. Fortunately, once people knew Will was the guy, the mob shifted toward him and his very affectionate wife. I talked to the 6 parents trying to tell them what to expect. I'm going to be staying with Mom and Dad, while Rocky and Stu are finding a place for us to work. I introduced the 6 parents to the 2 assistants. It was fascinating to watch. Stu talked in some detail with the moms, while Rocky talked to the dads. I didn't pay close attention, but my guys were learning who these people were, and assessing what they needed to know to keep us all safe. It's nice to be home. I just plopped down on the couch, my spot when I lived there with Mom and Dad. I'm sure it's not what you're used to now. Pretty basic. Mom looked apologetic. I looked at Dad. I love it here. But I do have a bunch of money. You want to live somewhere else, you tell me, and it will be done. But don't do it for me. I love this home. Dad smiled and nodded. I took that to mean he would discuss it privately and then let me know. I wondered if he thought Mom might be interested in a move. Close families are a wonderful thing. We didn't spend 2 minutes talking about my patents or my money, we just were family doing what families do. Mom got up to make supper. Not dinner, those are more formal. Supper is the family evening meal. She said, meatloaf. I knew the rest of the menu. I had been eating high-end food, you never get meatloaf, and it's a shame. Well, your mom is in the kitchen, I need to tell you something. Well, he spoke, in a hushed tone, he sat beside me. I think Bobby has been having an affair. Holy sheep, Pop. Really? Well, between your mom and me, we know a lot of folks. They talk to us. Over the last 6 months Bobby has been seen a couple of times, here and there with Freddie Tipton. I assume you mean the younger one. The son of Tipton Motors, Freddie. That's him. And I can tell you that apple didn't fall far from the tree. He is known to offer unique after-sale opportunities to many of his women clients. What am I saying? He doesn't make them buy a car to get serviced. Is it public knowledge? Dad quickly shook his head. No, I'm sure not. No one has really seen anything, but we have heard enough to suspect. This will destroy Will. I nearly mumbled. You must tell him, or I will. Dad did not want me to equivocate. Pop, calm down. Of course I am going to tell him. But I don't want to go off half-cocked. I sat and thought for a minute. My father was about to explode. Okay, Pop, here is the deal. All of a sudden, Will is worth a lot of money. When he hears Bobby is slotting around, he'll sue for divorce, and she'll have gotten rich being a whore. I want her to get nothing. You're ducking right about that. My, Pop, don't hold back. I smiled. Foul language and my father were close acquaintances, if not lifelong friends. Let's keep this between you and me for now. I am going out on the front porch and call Rocky. He'll let me know what needs to be done and how long it will take. I got up and went out the front door. I hit Rocky in favors. Yeah, Dave, what's up? Say, Rocky, my dad just told me Bobby is ducking around on Will with the car salesman, Freddie Tipton. Well, that offers me several opportunities. Which would you like me to choose? First, I want to know whether it is true, what exactly is going on. All discreet for now. Will is not going to tolerate infidelity, and I don't want him graped in a divorce. It's done. How long will it take? Give me 2 days. Rock, that's not much time. Doesn't take much. I'll spend a couple hours seeing when I can speak to Freddie, then sit down with him and have a chat. Rocky, what if he tells her? Oh, we'll chat about that. I'm sure he'll take our conversation to the grave or take to the grave over his indiscretion. By the way, that was just a joke. Let me assure you. I never do anything even marginally illegal. I will swear in court you ordered me to never break the law, and so, I didn't. That sent a chill down my spine. He was obviously giving me plausible deniability, while assuring me Freddie would cooperate, fully. I woke back in. Pop was sitting in his recliner. 2 days. 2 days, for what? He asked. We'll have an answer in 2 days. I guess things are different for the newly wealthy, he had this evil grin. You guess right. Soon we were eating meatloaf, green beans, and roasted baby potatoes. I love Mom's cooking and told her so. Our dinner conversation was about whether they should get a puppy to replace their beloved Cocker Spaniel. In the end, they thought the prospect of travel was better than a furry friend. Somewhere, a puppy lost a big opportunity. I was in my office. A small conference room in some upscale hotel. Stu said it would be our office for about a month. They were closing on some nice office space as we waited. Noon, Tuesday. Rocky, who technically has a few more hours, said he wanted to talk in private. His tone was matter of fact. It would seem your Mr. Tipton is quite a player and not very smart. That got a big smile, and why would you say that? I challenged him by starting with, I understand you don't care that the slut is married. I looked, well, let's say I look sincere when I said it. He blurts out, which one? Which one, indeed, dumb duck. Well, how did it go from there? I could hardly wait. This is all new to me. I knew guys like Rocky existed, but had no idea what they did or how they did it. I explained the facts of life, the way I knew he would agree. Having it come out in public that a guy trying to sell new cars to nice people is also ducking their wives would cost a lot of sales. I knew a lot of names and was willing to speak to every one of them. How did you get names so fast? I thought to myself, the guy must be some sort of miracle worker. I don't know sheep, but he didn't, still doesn't know that. I am honest with you. With him, not so much. That got a full laugh from me. I see. I am new to this game. I'll try to keep up. Money gives me a power I don't understand. I'm glad Rocky was recommended to me. He smiled. We talked for almost 2 hours. He's single and a player. He likes the married ones best. He was certain that Bobby was making a play for him. To trade up. Then, hubby got some big deal job on the West Coast, and she wasn't interested in a trade anymore. But to his description, the witch loves to duck. He offered to stop because of my interest, and I told him we never talked, and he should keep doing what he was doing, like he never heard of me. If you want, I'll call him and adjust his marching orders. What do you think? I looked to him for advice. What's Will going to want? Will is going to be unreasonable, to his own harm. I want to help Will. He will want a divorce and won't care about the money. Then, he'll see her ducking around while living on his wealth, and it will eat him up. Make her disappear then. Well, the implication there is clear enough. I don't want to know too much, but there's lots of ways to disappear, some fatal, some not. I offered timidly. Yeah, we know you, or Will for that matter, don't do illegal things, so trust me when I tell you that nothing like that will happen. But we'll talk to Will and see what he wants. My guess is sometime after she disappears. I might be suddenly rich, but I was raised in America's heartland. I still go to church regularly. Making someone disappear has never entered my mind. Rocky, this is Kansas. Okay, I get it. No problem. Lots of things we can do. Disappearing is just the cheapest and easiest. Well, first we need to get Will up to speed and keep him from letting his anger duck everything up. What we do is up to him. If it is very complicated, he can't afford it. Rocky was trying to caution me. I can afford it, if he insists he can pay me back. Sounds like we need to go on a retreat. I know a couple of places. We'll go to brainstorm something, you let me know what. We will be remote, no phones, no internet. Stu and I will keep Will from driving away. Mom, I'm thinking Will and I need to go somewhere to work for a couple of days. We'll leave Friday and be back by Wednesday at the latest. I told her as soon as I got home from meeting Rocky. You will not. She smiled sheepishly. Sorry, I'm used to you being my son. I still am, Mom, why can't I go? Well, I was talking with Diane and we thought we'd have a big do after church at their house. A big do? Well, sure. Us, Will and Bobby, Jenny, Will's sister, the Jacksons, Bobby's parents, and maybe a few more, if they can get to town. Okay, sure. That's important. We'll leave after that, for a few days. It occurred to me Will might not have that many chances to be with his in-laws, and I knew they were very close. Dad poked his head in the kitchen. I am going to run to the hardware. Want to tag along? Dad looked at me. There was no doubt he wanted me to go. Sure, Pop. And like that, we were off. What's the latest? He asked, while backing out of the garage. I'm going to take Will on a retreat. I have all I need to tell him about Bobby's affair, and hopefully we can get him calmed down enough to figure out what he needs to do. Dad had a lifetime of reading me, so I expected his next question. Just what does needs to do mean? Exactly. Pop, you raised me to be honest with you, and I will never forget that. Apparently, if one has the money, there are many options. I am confident Will is not going to go off the deep end and choose a bad option. I don't know, son. The trail is not the same here as a lot of places. The community might not look too harshly at a man who avenged his wedding vows. That gave me pause. What about her parents? Sure, she'll be their little girl, no matter what. But they'll wreak all kinds of havoc on her. She was not raised to be a whore. Here is my guess. Will is going to work with others on this. I will never know precisely what he did. Dad was pissed, ducking whore. He said no more, and I didn't either. Family events have a bad reputation. There is always some uncle who drinks too much and shows too much affection toward his nieces, or in a family of Republicans, there is a stray Democrat, or cousin Ernie hasn't worked since he got out of prison. It's always something. Our families were nothing like that. I am sure it is because all of us are God-fearing people and believe, as we are taught, to love one another. I can't remember any feuds, although human nature says there had to have been some, over the years. I sat with my dad, mostly, and we watched Will. He was with Bobby, then Bobby and her mom, then his mom and her mom. Endless combinations, each laughing and enjoying the day. Maybe my best move was to tell Bobby to cut that sheep out and spare Will the pain. I asked Pop what he thought. Bad idea. She'll learn you are not a threat. When she gets caught, and she will get caught, your friendship with Will be finished. Do you think people know? No, son, nothing has changed since you first asked. He was right, of course. Much as I wanted to avoid this retreat, it was coming at me and would not be denied. When the do was done, a large RV showed up. Will and I joined Rocky and Stu plus the driver and headed for our retreat. There was a nice bunk for each of us and we were in them and asleep in no time. I don't know about the others, but I was out. I woke as the RV came to a stop. I looked outside and there was this lot surrounded by large oak trees. A great setting. Everyone started stirring and we got out of the van. None of us had luggage, that had gone by separate cars some other time. We found our rooms, got settled, and met a few minutes later. Who wants an omelet? Asked Rocky with a bit of a smirk. Sounds great, I said, not knowing there was a hook. Do you cook omelets? Rocky's smirk broke into a full grin. I sure do. And like that, I was the cook for our first meal. While we ate, Rocky explained how everything was stocked and what our roles would need to be for our time here. The RV was gone, we had no cell reception, just an emergency call radio. We were truly remote. Will, before we do anything else, you and I need to talk. Will and I were sitting in the common lounge, while Rocky and Stu were cleaning up from breakfast. Will stared at me like he knew what was coming. I thought a remote retreat was a crock of sheep. This is about Bobby, isn't it? It is. But tell me, why do you think it would be about Bobby? Oh, no. You are not going to play me. I know you want to help your best friend, so I forgive you. At the same time, we are going to do this my way. What is going on? Bobby is having an affair with Freddie Tipton. Don't you mean was having? No, she has slowed down, but still sees him. As I said it, I could see it hit him hard. Duck that witch. I knew it and would not believe it. Pardon me, knew what? Bobby and I married too young. Turns out love does not conquer all. She was, shall I say, fond of pointing out to me how successful you were. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. Bullshit, don't be sorry for the path you chose or for your talent. If she didn't point to you, it would have been someone else. In any event, for almost 2 years I have been working full-time to support us and developing my business full-time to change our lifestyle. I knew it was tough, but how do you even do that? I worked as an electrician on larger sites that have crews round the clock. I worked from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Then, from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m., or 5 or 6, building contacts and doing work as an independent contractor. Home to bed and repeat. Not much of a life. I was shaking my head, who could do that? No, but Bobby was supportive, and that helped. At first, she was on me the minute I got home. Sex occasionally on the weekends was not enough. As time wore on, she told me she understood how tired I must be, and would resort to toys. I believed her, tried to. What are you going to do? You know, you are a great friend. I am so ducking upset I have no idea what I am going to do. Ditch the witch, for sure. But I work day and night, literally, for her. I want her head mounted on my wall. That is why the other two have joined us. Apparently, the very rich can have things done which are not available to others. Rocky mentioned she could be disappeared, for instance. Go talk to them, gather some data. Will got up immediately and went to talk to Rocky and Stu. It surprised me, Will is not a violent person. I don't think he was in a fight in grade school. Still, unless I missed my guess, Bobby was in for some hard times. How'd it go? Will walked back from his discussions. He'd been gone over 3 hours. 2:30, too early for a cocktail. You driving later? I laughed as I made my way to the bar. What'll it be? Listen, you're in charge. I can have 3 drinks, normally. We are starting early, let's make it 4. I don't want to get too drunk. No matter what I ask for, limit the alcohol to 4 drinks worth. Easy enough. What's number 1? Scotch. I filled the glass with ice and poured a healthy shot of scotch in it. I had the same. I sat sipping, waiting for Will to talk to me. I am not a gangster. I know, it is different saying you want a head mounted on the wall than hearing a guy describe to you how that might actually be accomplished. I think I have an idea. It will cost a lot, but I'm told you'll front the money. I just snorted, showing I had no worries about money. A few years ago, someone they knew of had a cheating wife. He arranged for some Latin Lothario to romance her. She left her husband and filed for divorce, not caring if she received anything from him or not. Sounds like it might work. I thought to myself, this would take a while and be very expensive. But no matter what, I'll do it for Will. As soon as the divorce was final, Don Juan dumped her. In Argentina, by the way. So, is there donjuan.com? They're finding out where this guy came from. We'll know pretty quick. But I have a wrinkle. Oh? I just waited for more to come out. He chuckled. First, you know Rocky is a real piece of work. He is that, but why, specifically? He told me about his conversations with Freddy. Part of that conversation was he guaranteed Freddy complete anonymity. What I want to do outs Freddy. Rocky looked at me like I was a slow learner. Did you promise Freddy anonymity? Was all he said. I had to laugh. That's our boy. In his life, he'll never experience an ethical dilemma. Will continued my thought, you'd need to have some, first. So, what's your twist? Much as I'd like to burn her at the stake, it's not me. I can't do it. But I can provide wood, a stake, rope, and matches, should she choose to use them. Oh, that sounds like fun. Tell me more. No wonder this took all that time. We go back, Stu tells Freddy. When he and Bobby link up, Stu calls me to go and catch them. Her whole sleazy past with him gets exposed to her family and mine. I file for divorce. Wait, this sounds risky. You are not doing this to save me money. No, we can talk about this before we do anything, but this is going to be a bad road for Bobby. I just need to make sure I am up to watching her burn, whether it was she who lit the fire, or not. Okay, tell me more. Will shifted around, thinking as he talked, need to work out the details here, but say before I catch her, we start doing business with some company in Mexico, or Bumdick, or wherever, and their representative is Don Juan. Don and Bobby meet, and when the divorce is filed, he approaches her for a little slap and tickle. A regretful spouse would turn him down. Yep. He looked downright diabolical. I'm betting all Bobby will see dollars or pesos or whatever and forget me, her family, and pretty much everything else. You know, she gets her half whether she is ducking one or whole battalion. Well, that's when Don and she go public. Her folks will go apesheep. Don will offer to take her away to his mansion in the sky. I don't see where this is getting you anywhere. It's coming. You and I are pissed. We stopped negotiations with Dawn's company. No one hears anything from her. She doesn't show up for divorce proceedings. Life is good. You're going to disappear her? Nope, the stupid witch is going to do it to herself. What about when her mom gets worried? All part of the plan. They contact me, I contact Don Juan's company, and find out it was a shell company, a guy trying to defraud us. We get authorities involved to find Don Juan. Whoa, that's risky. Stu says it's not. Why would anyone suspect us if we initiate the investigation? And there will be no ties to any shell company. Don Juan will be a distant memory, no photos, no passport, nothing. And her mom and dad just wonder for the rest of their lives what happened to their little girl. No, that's the part I am wrestling with. Listen, you don't want to know everything. If I do something and get caught, I guess I'll buy that. But I don't want you to take risks I would not take. Will, in the end, it's just money. Dave, I'm sorry, but I worked night and day, then the next night and day, then the next, for 2 docking years. In part, it was my own ambition, I did want my own shop. But that scheming witch let me go through all that, and would have divorced my worn-out ass, if Freddie would have gone for it. Well, no, just a minute, I'm not done. Then she farts Freddie off, because my bank account grew, but she likes ducking him, so she keeps that up. This is a bad human being. I have an opportunity to see she burns in the fire she built. How's that drink? He held up the glass and I poured. Stu, Rocky, you guys got a minute? Will said it barely louder than if they were in the room with us, and an instant later they joined us. Cocktail hour came early, care to join? Rocky asked for gin and tonic, Stu started with Diet Coke. Will looked at Stu, one thing troubles me, where does Don Juan come from? How do we show we were looking for him months ago? That's a no-brainer. Dave has been seeking partners all over the world for more than a year. He must have 100 emails to this guy and that company, and who knows. We go through those emails and find one. Then, we have a made-up contact. I had to interject. Excuse me, a made-up contact. You are talking to the police. Some months have passed since Don Juan and Bobby disappeared. You were thinking of doing business with him, but when he and your best friend's to-be divorced wife took off on some romantic trip, you lost interest. Okay so far. Sure. But what about? Let me continue. Bobby's mom is concerned, so you look up Don Juan Ecuador, or whatever company name he gave you. Turns out there is none. You call the police. Rocky stood as he made his objection. Stu, stop, just ducking stop. He then turned and looked at me. Boss, I'm going to need $2 million for stuff. Approve. I'll need some detail. I all but laughed, apparently he was financing this venture. It's for work. I don't know what these guys are talking about. He paused and looked at Stu, like you moron. What kind of help are you looking for in South America? He asked of me. Manufacturing. I returned quickly. Okay. One day Sunoze Manufacturing is going to contact you. He will have flown all the way from Bogota or Sao Paulo or somewhere. He wants to lay out what he can do for you. You meet and he lays it on you. Simple enough. How did Jose find me? Rocky took a deep breath then, exhaled slowly looking at the ceiling, as though he was seeking divine guidance. Pardon me for being crude. How in the good duck would I know? I have never met Jose. If you want to know something about him, I would suggest you ask him. I knew Rocky was telling me what I needed to know, should I ever be asked. It made perfect sense. Ask the guy. If I forget to ask him, I won't know. If I did ask and he answered, I would have real detail to give to anyone who was pursuing Jose. What then? You do what you would do. You want to see his facilities, talk to his customers, look at his sales force. Jose will agree. What else could he do? He'll tell you he needs to arrange it and will get back to you. I like it. Actually, I did like it. Then, he disappears. It might be he leaves alone, or he might have a companion. They won't announce where they are going, and you'll have no idea, other than his business card, Jose's Manufacturing of Santiago, Venezuela. Santiago is not in Venezuela. I pointed out. Are you telling this story, or am I? Now Rocky was looking at me as if I had lost a few buttons. So, Jose Bleetown. If Will's wife is missing, I guess you'd leave it to Will to figure if he gives a sheep. End of story. Wait. Now, Will was curious. Let's say my wife does disappear, about the same time. Why would we link it to Jose? Rocky smiled. Obviously, Will and he had discussed this, and Will wanted me to have a little more information. No reason you would, unless someone saw them together. Things at the retreat went well. One day I cooked, the next day Will was in charge. The other two helped and did most of the cleanup. Will and I talked a lot. He was conflicted about some part of this and was unwilling to tell me anything about it. He was a great friend, trying to protect me. Will was getting the stakes ready. Rocky motioned to me to walk outside with him. Boss, I want you to know, the other day, I misspoke. I don't need any money. Will wanted that number thrown around. Why, I have no idea. If I were to need any money I could probably find it in the Caymans, or somewhere. Well, that's good. So, this operation is going to have no money tied back to me. What operation? I smiled and shook my head. Oh, forgive me, I was thinking of something else. Will seems nervous and for the life of me, I don't know why. As he said it, Rocky was trying to assure me and to convince me to leave things alone. No words were spoken, but his intent was clear. He's my best friend, Rock. Rocky made a point of squaring his shoulders and looking me straight in the eye. I promise you nothing will go on which will be cause for alarm. The one thing that might be an issue is if there were two nervous rookies who kept looking at one another, like to see who farted. That could get suspicion started. Who knows what people might find if they thought there was something to look for. Got it. How do I help him, Rock? Load his ass up. Tell him he is behind schedule. Ask him if he has always been a loafer. There is a lot to do. We have no time to be fiddly ducking around with other things, I said, sounding stern. Sounds right to me. I know, for a fact, I have time for nothing else. Rocky didn't offer a glimmer of a smile. He was dead serious. Rather, he was showing me how to be dead serious. We had been back from the retreat for nearly a month. My cell rang, it was my mother. Mom, you never call, is Pop okay? Marge Jackson just called. Will caught Bobby with Freddie Tipton, they have been in a long affair. Will is beside himself. Oh, crap, sorry, Mom, where's Will? I'd better get to him. I don't think he had any idea. I guess not. Though I must say there were rumors. Did your dad ever mention them? No, Mom, can't say he did. Funny, most of the lies I told in my life were because either Mom or Pop had told me something and made me swear not to tell the other. I sent question marks by text to Will. A few minutes later, your office, 2:30. Will and I had decided we were not good enough actors to go through the conversation about his catching Bobby. So, we had a spot in the park, where we'd met since we were kids. At 2:30 I parked my car and headed straight to my office where I saw Will on the couch. His smile made my heart soar. I'd not seen him this happy in a while. So, I said as I got within 10 feet. It was ducking great. The greatest. I was laughing now, I take it went well. Rock started it off. When I got to the motel, he gave me the room number and a key. I asked him how I'd explain the key. You know how he gets. Who in the good duck is going to ask? And if anyone does ask, why would you answer? I laughed, took the key and got to the door. Will paused and took a swig of Pepsi, want one. He had a cooler at his side. I'm good. They heard the door unlock, I guess. He was kneeling behind her, and both of them were looking at me as I walked in. Who doesn't chain the door? He screamed louder than she did. I looked at her and said, I never would have believed you would do this to me. We're finished. Better get on the phone fast or your parents will hear this from me, before they hear it from you. Will paused. That's all I said to them. I threw the key card at them, turned, and left. I forgot to close the door. Forgot, did you? Did you leave it ajar? I asked, smiling. Yeah, ajar wide open, I told you, I forgot. He was now deadpan, no emotion. No doubt practicing. And then I called my mom, then hers. I did get to her mom before she did. It turns out that was harder than I thought. Her mom was distraught. But I convinced her I felt the same. Then I called some lawyer. Some lawyer? Yeah, some lawyer, I don't remember her name. It's not like I've been planning this. That made me smile, again, you're enjoying yourself. Yeah, this is the last chance for a while. Bobby will be served Monday. You know, 3 hours have passed and no call, no text, nothing. That tells me she is trying to figure out just the right move. Optimist. I think once they got the door closed, they figured their evenings were shot, might as well enjoy the afternoon. Say, Will, on a serious note, how on earth have you kept a smile on your face at home this last month? Worse than that, the skank tried to duck me to death, nearly every night. Fortunately, the clock has a low IQ. I really dread talking to her folks over the next few days. Her dad is an elder of the church. They're going to be despondent. That's not on you, Will. Part of it will be. I want them to be mad at her. I don't know why it happened exactly, but who would demand their spouse to work 16 to 18-hour days, while they style hair a couple of hours, and then cheat, because they were bored? No one is that thoughtless, self-centered, and cruel. No argument from me, brother. I know Bobby better than anyone. Once her mom turns on her, Bobby is liable to make a big mistake. I am causing her mom to push Bobby. Is that bad? I'll say this. I think most would do that. It is low and petty, but who would be otherwise? You know what you did for her, why shouldn't you pay her back? Make her mom hate her for a while. You bet. I'm Muse, a suffering friend changes priorities. Suddenly getting the business up and running was not as critical. I'd say Will and I spent at least a couple of hours every day mourning the loss of his marriage. What bothered me was he was over Bobby. He just couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Will, stop it. Right now. Stop what? The main thing wrong with you is you chose poorly. Your ex is a mess. She is beautiful, fun to be with, was raised right. And she turned out to be a self-centered whore. That's why her mom is so mad at her. Her mom knows what she poured into that woman, and totally rejects any part of her daughter. Becoming a whore is on her. You know, you're right. I just wish. I heard a knock on the door followed by my assistant's voice. I am sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thomas. May I come in? It's okay, Will and I are done, for now. Oh, and Dawn, unless you want to be Miss Wakefield, it's Dave. Okay, Dave. Mr. Roberto Cardozo called. I don't think I know Roberto, how about you? I looked at Will, who just shrugged and shook his head. No, he said you didn't. He got your name through an Alessandro Gonzalez. I know. So, what does Roberto want? He runs a manufacturing operation in Argentina and wants to show you what he could do for you. I looked at Will. What do you think? I never heard of the guy. He paused. I never met anyone from South America. If we are going to do business down there, I am going to need to expand my horizons. Set it up. Dawn looked at Will. Will, tomorrow is the day you agreed to meet with your wife. Is it? Well, that's not going to take long. The South American came a long way. No reason for him to wait because of her. Dawn left to take care of the details. Close the door. I said quietly, and Will closed it. You pirate, you might have warned me. Roberto and Bobby showing up on the same day. I nearly peed my pants. What? Odd coincidences happen every day. He had a killer grin. Yeah, odd coincidences. You've been hanging out with Rocky too much. I paused. No, come to think of it, you're doing it just right. What would be really strange is as she crossed the street from our parking, a limo pulled up and he got out. Will now had his best, no emotion, matter-of-fact demeanor. What are the odds? Again, without emotion, pretty much 100%. With that he opened the door and left my office. As Sherlock would have put it, the game is afoot. Rocky was right. You can't have two amateurs involved in the detail. The curiosity was killing me. How would Bobby respond to some dashing Latino emerging from the limo? As much as it pained me, there was no plausible reason I would be in the lobby peering out the front door, so I stayed in my office, pretending I was working. Surprisingly, Will told Dawn he would be a few minutes late. Although Will did not mention it, poor Bobby and Roberto would have some time to kill. About 5 minutes past 1, Dawn came in. Mr. Air, Dave, Will still has not arrived. I told Mr. Cardozo he was welcome to join you, but he said we needed to wait for Will, and was satisfied to sit with Mrs. Wheat. Will, if it makes him happy. Dawn shook her head. I don't know about him, but she is happy. I want you to know. She seems to have forgotten she is here to try to reconcile. Oh? Is Mr. Cardozo one who might draw attention? He is gorgeous. An absolute hunk. I can see why she might get distracted, but still. Well, let me say this, if Bobby weren't so easily distracted she'd still have a husband. No more than 10 minutes passed, and Will came in. Hang on to your hat, this is great. She was practically dry humping him in the lobby. I shook his hand, warmly. Gave her a non-committal look and asked Dawn to give me 2 minutes. She is taking Bobby to the blue conference room and will bring Roberto here. Remember, our meeting with him is strictly business. With that, he was out the door almost running into Dawn and Roberto. Roberto and I introduced ourselves. I asked if he would like coffee, and Dawn went to get it. I started to explain that Will would still be a few minutes, he had another meeting. With the most beautiful woman. Roberto smiled as he said it. Dawn came in with our coffee, followed immediately by Will. Will, that went as expected. Sorry for the delay. Will said it in a way it raised no questions. He was happy, so we moved on. The meeting took nearly 2 hours. I was mystified that the three of us, without other witnesses, played our parts like this was a real thing. In the end Roberto hedged about our seeing his imaginary factories, but said he'd arrange it and get back to us. We stood, walked out of my office, shook hands, and agreed to await his call. The week ended. I spent the weekend with my folks. Monday morning, at 6:45 I was in my office waiting for Will. We always shared early morning coffee on Mondays and planned our weeks. No one else was around, so I asked, "What's up?" At first he smiled, then swallowed it. "I haven't heard anything, so I don't know anything. I wonder if James Bond has to put up with this sheep." Clearly, the smile then the awkward sentence meant he knew a ton and was dying to share it, but it was better left unshared. "Let me ask this. Last week, you met with Bobby, and it lasted about a nanosecond. What was that all about?" "I found her in the lobby, all animated and talking with Mr. Cardozo. She looked like she was in heat. Clearly, I was not the priority she claimed me to be while requesting we meet. He was a charmer. So, I walked into the conference room. Well, I stopped at the door, actually. I told her never to contact me again. If she was working on reconciling and hanging on some stranger, she was not someone I wanted to know. I turned and left. She didn't get a chance to say a word. And you haven't heard from her since. She understood never to contact me again, even if you don't. Well, that told me something. Maybe Roberto had a chance to close the deal and took her to a better place, already. I guess we'll find out." Nearly 3 months passed. Will came into my office for our Monday morning chat. Bubby's dad came over last night. He wanted to know what I knew about Roberto. Oh? They have not seen or heard from Bobby in 3 months. She left a note on our kitchen table which said she had blown it with me, and everyone was mad at her. Roberto invited her to live with him in Buenos Aires for a while. She wasn't taking her phone and did not expect to contact anyone for a while. She loved them. And nothing. Last week they got concerned. Well, last week they decided to act on their concerns. They called the embassy down there and were told without more information, they could do nothing. They had no record of Bobby's passport as being registered in Argentina. He said he found me through Alessandro. Let me call him. I found his contact and called. "Alessandro, ¿cómo está?" We exchanged pleasantries. The reason for my call: about 3 months ago I was approached by Roberto Cardozo. He used your name and well, since he hadn't reconnected, that is what I figured, thanks. I disconnected. What did he have to say? Will had his notepad ready. Alessandro never heard of him. There is no business in Argentina like the one described. He didn't recognize him from my description, though handsome Latino covers several people, as I understand it. It would appear Bobby disappeared with a common. We got Dawn in and started to reconstruct everything we had. Will contacted the local police, who sent 2 detectives to talk with us. Will explained what he knew from talking with Bobby's father. The detectives, Dawn, Will and I sat in my office. This is a very odd situation. Let me see if I've got this straight. You, Mr. Wheat, are divorcing your wife. You saw her last year about 3 months ago. It was on April 2nd at 1:05 p.m. Dawn volunteered. What was? Asked Detective 1. The last time Mr. Wheat saw Mrs. Wheat. Is that true? The detective asked Will. Yes, here, I have the notes we assembled. We tried to reconstruct as much as we could, knowing it is not much. Will handed Detective 2 the notes. And Mrs. Wheat left for Argentina with the Mr. Cardozo? The detective asked. Will answered, we have no idea. A couple of days ago, the date is in the notes, my father-in-law called asking if I knew who this Cardozo guy was. Really, I don't. He purported himself to be an Argentinian manufacturer who wanted to work with us. We insisted on seeing his facilities, talking to his customers, and things to confirm he would be a good partner. He hesitated but told us he would be in touch. We never heard from him again. He met Mrs. Wheat here. I think so. Dawn answered, I was waiting for him at the front door. We wanted to greet him nicely. Mrs. Wheat was crossing the street from the parking lot as he was getting out of the stretch limo. They spoke. It looked like he was introducing himself. Do you know they were introducing, or were they catching up, like it had been some time between meetings? Dawn sat and thought, I think it was the first time, but it's just the impression I got. The detective looked down, while looking at no one asked, you suspect foul play? We sat there. He looked up and looked at Will. You're asking me? Will asked. Anyone, really, why do you hesitate? Because I don't know how to answer the question. I am close to her family. When she didn't contact them, they asked me what I knew. I feel like I owe them to find out what I can. Her note mentions the guy we met with. You think he is capable of kidnapping her? I have no idea. He's a conman. Does that make him a kidnapper? I don't know if she is in distress. I know she has not contacted anyone. Anyone? The detective seemed to look for any ambiguity in an answer. Her family or me? That's anyone. That's what I meant. This went on for a while. Finally, Detective 2 said, this is not going to lead anywhere. These people don't appear to know anything. I took appear to know as a test, to see if we were defensive. We all sat for 30 seconds, or so, a long time in silence. Then, they said they'd contact her parents if anything was discovered. Will and I decided to have dinner together. We chose Denny's. What can I say? I like their anytime breakfasts. I talked to her parents. They're sick with worry, he said as we sat down. Do they know more than we do? No, Roberto Cardozo came into America in the month before we met the guy. He did not leave the country, nor did she, according to passport control. The limo was rented to a local company and subleased to Ajax Manufacturing. Maybe it was Apex. They paid cash. The phone he used to contact us was owned by some company in Nebraska, now defunct. No trace. None. And they will not ask foreign countries. I guess passport control was downright insulting, said something to the effect of, what would we ask? No one we know of left here. Do you have a record of them arriving there? I guess that is the end of it. I was getting better at being 007. Ask these innocuous, open-ended questions and see what comes back. Will asked how my Grand Slam was. We started talking about other things. No answer to that's the end of it. Must mean it isn't the end. Nearly a year has passed. The plant is up and running. We also have gotten our research operations going. Life is good. Will came into my office, looking confused. The guy just called me from Lima, Peru. He found a woman who told him she is married to me. She's in pretty tough shape. I didn't think she'd ever be heard of again. I know. I am taking your plane, her parents, and we are going to go get her. Anything you need me to do? You've done plenty. Rocky wanted to meet in private. What's up? A while back I told you I needed a couple of million, do you recall? I nodded. I did, while saying, no, should I? I think this is a detail a boss should not need to listen to. But one of your subordinates insisted I tell you. He's concerned about restitution. Well, the detail of things tends to go in one ear and out the other. I shook my head. I wonder if I'll ever get back to saying what I mean or hearing what wasn't said. It turns out, you invested $250,000 about a year ago. Then, recently had to pay $500,000 to close the unsuccessful venture down. You want more detail? Any chance I'll gain from knowing more? Not that I can see. Thanks. Monday morning coffee with Will. I hadn't seen him in nearly 2 weeks. How did it go? She was a mess. Addicted to Lord knows what and has been in some brothel for a year. I took a deep breath. Will wanted her to pay. She paid. I see. She's been in Peru this whole time. She doesn't think so. Let me go back. She knew she'd really blown it. She hung around our parking lot and waited for Roberto to come out of the meeting. She told her folks she begged him to take her with him. He agreed. I guess he knew that would happen. He did not acknowledge. He flew her somewhere, she thinks Dallas. On the way he gave her cocaine and some pills. She doesn't remember landing, nor leaving. She told us she had a dream she was in a box. It was totally dark, her hands were tied, and she had a mask. To me, it sounds like they drugged her and shipped her somewhere. How did her folks take all this? Better than I thought. Maybe it was like the prodigal son returning home. Next thing she knew, she was with Roberto in some seaside resort. They partied, she was forced and ended up hooked on heroin. Another blackout and she woke owned by some brothel. 10 clients a day for food and drugs. He paused, gathering his thoughts, then, another blackout and she awoke in Peru. She was sure the brothel was somewhere else. The sky was different, she said. She was with this man, who told her he'd freed her. He took her to the embassy. He told them she had this ID in her room. He told the embassy he'd answer all their questions, but vanished before they had a chance. All's well that ends well. I knew there was more. It is going to take time and some money to get her back to the human race. I told her parents I'd help them financially. I am their hero. Did I mention my divorce? She had abandoned me for just over a year. Since she never responded, she got nothing. That's the end of today's story, friends. Show some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Goodbye for now. Stay safe and I'll see you in the next video.